Have you ever noticed that you're doing everything right, yet you're still being ignored? You wake up at 5 a.m., you follow your routine, you stay consistent even when you're exhausted. But still, people don't take you seriously. Why? Look, my friend, this world is telling a massive lie to you, to me, to all of us. Since childhood, we've all heard the same thing. Discipline is the only key to success. Every self-help guru, every mentor, every system teaches you the same thing. Control yourself. Stay away from distractions. Follow a fixed routine and success will come automatically. But what if that very discipline is making you weak? What if behind all your hard work, there's a hidden truth that you're actually following someone else's system? A system that's turning you into nothing more than a slave who works under it. The very thing that promises you freedom slowly becomes your cage. And the most dangerous part? You don't even realize it. And you happily lock yourself inside that cage. Look, friend, I'm not telling you to completely reject discipline. Having discipline in life is necessary, but blind discipline is just as dangerous. And in this video, we're going to understand exactly that difference. Today, we won't reject discipline. We'll understand it, break it down, and upgrade it. I'm going to show you 7 brutal truths that will introduce you to the dark side of discipline, the side that Niccolò Machiavelli understood 500 years ago. You'll understand how your habit of following routines is slowly making you a slave of the system. So get ready, because today we're stepping out of this fixed timetable life and understanding the real power of calculated unpredictability. Because real power doesn't lie in blindly following rules, it lies in knowing when to break them. So pay close attention, because the next few minutes might not just change your thinking, they might change your entire direction. Let's begin. Point number 1. The predictability trap. 500 years ago, Niccolò Machiavelli understood something that most people still can't grasp today. His point was simple. A person who is disciplined in everything becomes predictable in everything. And in the game of power, being predictable is not a strength. It's your greatest weakness. Now think about it. If your enemy or competitor already knows what your next move will be, do they even need to fear you? Absolutely not. Your obsession with discipline has made you so predictable that anyone can guess your next move in advance. And slowly, you lose your real strength, the ability to think outside the box. Here's something important to understand. When you follow a rigid discipline, the same 9 to 5 every day, the same gym time, the same reactions, you're literally handing your game plan to your enemies and competitors for free. Your behavior becomes a pattern, and whatever moves in a pattern can be predicted and crushed. Understand it through this example. Imagine a guy who wakes up at 5 a.m. every day. 6 to 7 gym, 9 to 6 office, same lunchtime, same route, same routine, daily. Now, if someone observes him for a week or two, they'll know exactly when he leaves home, when he's free, when he's busy, when he's vulnerable. And then his pattern can be used to influence him. Why? Because he's predictable. From a security standpoint, this is a massive problem. But you might think, who am I? I'm not some celebrity that someone would track me. But my innocent friend, that right there is your biggest mistake. You're forgetting that today, systems like Google and Meta platforms are doing exactly that. They track your habits. When are you active? What do you search? What do you watch? Everything gets analyzed. You must have noticed. In the morning, you just thought about exercising, and a little while later, your phone is flooded with fitness ads, workout videos, and diet plans. That's not a coincidence. That's your pattern being read. But you might ask, what's the problem with that? And honestly, there's no problem as long as the control is in your hands. The problem starts when this routine becomes an obsession. Look, I'm not saying waking up early is wrong or that following discipline is bad. Discipline is a tool, but blind discipline is a trap. Now ask yourself honestly, if your routine breaks one day, do you panic? If your morning tea gets skipped, do you get irritated? If you miss the gym for one day, does guilt eat you alive? If yes, then you're not controlling the routine. The routine is controlling you. When you become predictable, not just people, even the system starts controlling you. Now understand this through a historical example. 216 BC, Rome was the most powerful military force in the world. They believed no one could defeat them. Their army was strong, disciplined, and most importantly, they had complete confidence in their method. Their style was simple: attack directly, apply force, crush the enemy. And they had used this strategy successfully over and over again. But this time, standing against them was Hannibal Barca, a general who didn't just fight, he thought. Then came the day the battle began. The Romans attacked with full confidence, exactly the way they always had. Straight push to the center. They were sure they'd win again. But Hannibal already knew what the Romans would do, how they would attack, and when. Why? Because they were predictable. Hannibal had already studied Rome's war patterns. Hannibal kept his center slightly weak on purpose. The Romans kept attacking, kept pushing inward, thinking they were winning. But in reality, they were walking into a trap. When the Roman army was fully inside, Hannibal's soldiers closed in from both sides. The cavalry blocked the rear. The Roman army was completely surrounded. No way forward, no way back, no escape. Result: 50,000 plus Roman soldiers killed. Rome's greatest defeat. And the most shocking part, their strength became their weakness. The Romans weren't weak, they were just predictable. Their every move was already written, and Hannibal simply used that. The Romans were relying on their strength, but Hannibal was playing the game of their predictability. So what should the Romans have done? Simple. Instead of sticking to their disciplined formation, they should have investigated. They should have noticed that the enemy's pattern was changing and immediately adapted their own approach. Discipline had made the Romans strong, yes, but predictability had made them easy prey. Now see this real-world example. Imagine you're a disciplined employee who arrives at the office at 8:59 a.m. and leaves exactly at 6 p.m. Your boss studies your routine, and the very next day gives you urgent work at 5:59 p.m. because he knows you won't say no. Here your routine became your chain. Now you might think, well, I have to do it anyway. But think, if you were unpredictable, would your boss so easily push you like that? Absolutely not. So sometimes come early, sometimes come late, sometimes finish work quickly, sometimes learn to look busy. When people can't figure out your pattern, they're afraid to manipulate you. You need to be disciplined, but strategically disciplined. Remember, never broadcast your routine. Let people feel you're busy, but don't let them know exactly how or why. And most importantly, always be ready to break your own rules. Point number 2, mental rigidity and loss of instinct. The biggest side effect of blind discipline is tunnel vision. When you follow the same pattern every day, your brain slowly stops seeing new paths and sudden dangers. You develop a mental rigidity where you believe, if the routine is right, everything will be right. But what's the reality? Life is not fair. Life doesn't attack with a warning. Life hits suddenly. And when the situation changes, your routine doesn't save you. Your instinct does. Your ability to make decisions in the moment, that's what matters. Understand this through an example. There's a 23-year-old boy, Ramesh, who has made a rigid career plan. 2 years preparing for civil services, then a job after selection. He studies 12 hours a day, no social life, no backup plan. Now if he clears the exam, great. But if he doesn't, he'll completely fall apart. He'll either sink into depression or blindly restart civil service prep in a field where competition is already sky high and his chances are slim. Why? Because he trained himself for only one path. So what should Ramesh have done? He needed to become anti-fragile. Don't apply discipline to just one goal. Apply it to skill acquisition. If you're studying, simultaneously develop a skill that's always in demand in the market. Keep Plan A, but keep Plan B open for experimentation. According to Machiavelli, fortuna, is like a river that can flood at any moment. A normally disciplined person just builds a dam. But a mastermind also knows how to swim. That's the difference. For Machiavelli, virtue doesn't just mean hard work. It means adaptability. Now look at this modern example. Nokia was once the most dominant mobile company in the world. Their system was supremely disciplined, best in manufacturing, best in distribution. But when Apple launched a software-based smartphone, Nokia clung to its old disciplined success formula. They believed their system would save them. And that was Nokia's biggest mistake. Instead, they should have understood the market shift and jumped into software innovation. If they had adapted, they'd still be in the game. So remember, when you see that the market or technology is changing, let go of your old disciplined methods and adopt the new chaos. You need to be disciplined, but adaptively disciplined. Every week, do one thing that goes against your routine, so your brain doesn't get trapped in the comfort zone. Don't fall in love with the process. Fall in love with the result. And most importantly, if the routine isn't giving results, change the routine. Not the goal. A disciplined worker is replaceable. But an adaptive strategist is never replaced. Point number 3. Becoming a cog in someone else's machine. This means becoming a small, unimportant part of a larger system or organization. Imagine a massive machine with thousands of tiny cogs, gears, fitted inside it. If one cog is removed, the machine keeps running, because that one cog has no real identity or value. It can be replaced at any time. And that's exactly what discipline turns you into. A small cog in someone else's big machine. Why does the world always advise you to stay disciplined? Because the truth is this: disciplined people are easier to manage. When you trap yourself in a rigid routine through blind discipline, you essentially become a useful tool. Your focus shifts from self-service to system service. Now think back to your school days. What were you taught? Bell rings, change class. Teacher says, sit quietly. Have a question, raise your hand. Nothing without permission. What was all of that? Training. You were taught how to sit, how to speak, when to react, when to stay silent. And slowly, following instructions became your default, then college, then a job. The same system everywhere. Fixed timings, fixed targets, fixed rules. And what do? You adjust. You don't change your thinking, you mold yourself to fit the system. You feel like you're winning. But in reality, you're going deeper and deeper inside the system, and when you become all of that, the system rewards you. But does it give you power? Absolutely not. The system doesn't want powerful people. It wants manageable people. People who don't ask questions, who don't break patterns, who quietly keep working and blindly follow the rules the system created. And discipline does exactly that. It doesn't make you a leader, it makes you a loyal worker. Now imagine a delivery partner or freelancer who perfectly follows every rule of the platform, available at every time slot. You'd think, this is the ideal worker, right? But what's the reality? The algorithm squeezes him more and more. He gets so caught up in hard work that he has no time left for his own growth. So what should he have done? He should have looked for the glitches and gaps in the system. Instead of working like a blind workhorse, he should have found the high-demand areas where he could earn more with less effort. This is called gaming the system. Apply your discipline not to hard work, but to system analysis. Understand how the system works, find its gaps, and then use those gaps for your own benefit. You need to be disciplined, but with selfish discipline. If you wake up at 5 a.m., give the first 3 hours to your side hustle or your health, not to your boss's emails. Show the system what it wants to see, predictability. But behind the curtain, always be preparing your next move. Always keep an exit strategy. Never be fully dependent on one system. Remember, blind discipline is what people follow when they have no other option. So don't just be disciplined. Be selfishly disciplined. Point number 4. The flattery trap. Niccolò Machiavelli once said, "A leader's greatest danger is not his enemies, it's his own flatterers." Where does the problem start? When a system has blind discipline and strict hierarchy, the people below start living in fear. They don't speak the truth. They say only what the leader wants to hear, and that's where the real problem begins. The leader receives wrong or incomplete information and starts making bad decisions. To understand this concept, let's look at one of history's most terrifying lessons, the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. That night, the engineers sitting in the control room could clearly see that the system was failing. The indicators were screaming that the reactor was about to explode. But there was one heavy burden on all of them: strict party discipline. In Soviet Union of that era, saying no to senior leaders or pointing out their mistakes was considered a crime. The engineers knew disaster was coming, but due to strict discipline, they didn't have the courage to speak the truth. And the result? The leaders sitting in Moscow were told that everything was under control, nothing to worry about. This culture of yes sir and blind discipline didn't just put an entire city to death, It eventually shook the foundation of an entire nation. This gives us a massive lesson. The day discipline becomes bigger than truth and common sense. Understand that destruction is certain. If those engineers had been a little rebellious and spoken the truth, maybe history would have been different. This same thing happens in the corporate world. Employees keep saying, "Yes, boss." The boss thinks he's a genius, but in reality, he's in an echo chamber where only his own voice keeps bouncing around. And when a major crisis hits, his team won't warn him in advance, because they were taught to stay silent in the name of discipline. So what should you do? Adopt selective transparency. Keep at least 2 people in your circle who you've given the right to tear apart your discipline and your decisions. According to Machiavelli, give permission to speak the truth only to those who are wise. From everyone else, just take obedience. Keep discipline limited to execution, but in brainstorming and thinking, make space for chaos and criticism. A leader who stops listening stops growing. Your discipline should be your fortress, but that fortress must have windows open for truth to enter. Without the right intelligence, even a disciplined army will jump into a pit of death. So stay disciplined, but stay far away from this flattery trap. Point number 5. Perfect routine, but in the wrong direction. This means working hard every day, but slowly moving toward destruction. Blind discipline often makes a person stubborn. We start loving our routines more than our results. Remember Machiavelli's great truth. The world doesn't always run the same way. Circumstances always change. If your discipline today is the same as it was 5 years ago, you might be efficient, but you won't stay relevant. People often fail because they're running very fast on an old road that no longer leads anywhere. Understand through this example. There's a 22-year-old guy working day and night to learn video editing. 10 hours of work a day, full discipline, 0 distractions. But what's the problem? He's working on old software and old styles, while the outside world has already been hit by a storm of AI tools and short-form content. His problem isn't that he's not working hard. His problem is that his discipline won't let him break his fixed schedule. He thinks, "I'm working hard, so success is guaranteed." Result? He becomes a hard-working dinosaur, full of effort, but 0 market demand. Now hear the fix. Apply discipline not to the process, but to the outcome. Keep 20% of your monthly schedule free for research, so you can see where the world is heading. Machiavelli wrote clearly in The Prince, "A leader is successful only as long as his way of working matches the speed of the times." Fortune changes, but the man stays rigid. And that rigidity becomes the cause of his destruction. Changing with the times is not betrayal, it's wisdom. Look at this from history. The samurai warriors, unmatched discipline. The Bushido Code, world-famous warriors. But when firearms arrived in Japan, many samurai clans refused to adopt them. They felt it went against their tradition and disciplined way of life. At the Battle of Nagashino, their noble discipline couldn't save them. The opposing army, which had adopted new methods, finished them off within moments. The lesson is simple. They should have preserved their warrior spirit, but immediately upgraded their weapons and methods. Today, many people are struggling because they spent 20 years in disciplined education. They studied what the system told them, never questioned whether that degree would work in today's market. And today, they're disciplined but unemployed, because their skills are outdated. Instead, they should have treated a degree as just a background check. Real discipline should go into learning real-world skills. Skills that need to be updated every 6 months. You need to be disciplined, but outcome-oriented disciplined. Audit your routine every 3 months. Ask yourself, is what I'm doing taking me where today's world is going? Stay strong in purpose on the inside, but stay flexible on the outside. Keep updating your methods. If the trend is changing, have the courage to throw out your old efforts and walk a new path. Remember, standing in one place like a fool isn't discipline, it's suicide. Point number 6. Submission disguised as virtue. The world teaches us that following rules, staying loyal to the system, always remaining disciplined, these are virtues, good things. But Niccolò Machiavelli says, People often give their weakness the name of discipline. The truth? You're not following rules because you're great. You're following them because you're afraid to break them. Blind discipline dresses up your fear as a noble quality, so you never rebel. Machiavelli says a leader should not be overly righteous. Why? Because a righteous person is destroyed among people who are not. According to him, true virtue, real strength and courage, means knowing when to be moral and when not to be. A person who always stays moral in the name of blind discipline is, in Machiavelli's eyes, not powerful, but completely helpless. Understand through a real-world example. Today, many young men and women are caught in a trap they call loyalty. They stay in a toxic relationship simply because their self-discipline teaches them that honoring commitment is a good thing. Every day they endure their partner's rudeness and disrespect, and console themselves by saying, this is their patience and their discipline. They believe saving the relationship is a moral duty, even if the cost is their own mental health. And the result? They slowly break from the inside. Confidence gone. Self-esteem at zero. And worst of all, they fall in their own eyes. So what should they have done? The answer is simple. Align discipline with self-respect. You must understand that commitment should first be to your own standards before it's to another person. If someone crosses the boundaries you've set, walking away without looking back is the real strength. So remember, where there is no respect, following rules is not success, it's slavery. Apply your discipline where you grow, not where your very existence is being destroyed. Blind discipline is destructive not just in systems, but in relationships too. Your discipline should be a weapon, not your chain. Every month, ask yourself, are you blindly following rules because they're right, or because you're afraid? Be Machiavellian. Don't be too righteous. Show the world you're disciplined, but also make them feel that you can break the rules and become dangerous at any moment. If you don't even have the power to be bad, then your goodness is not a virtue. It's just compulsion. Point number 7. Loss of the lion and fox strategy. This is straightforward. Being only a lion is not enough. Niccolò Machiavelli said, a ruler cannot only be a powerful lion, he must be equally clever as a fox. The lion can scare wolves, but gets trapped in traps. The fox can recognize traps, but can't fight wolves. And power is achieved only when you are both. When you blindly follow discipline, you're trying to be a lion, straight, disciplined, honorable, fixed on your path. But in this process, you lose your fox-like qualities: cunning, strategy, and the ability to deceive. You become so honorable that you lose to people who play the game dirty. Understand through this example. Imagine a 24-year-old who believes that only hard work and honesty will get him everything. So he stays away from office politics. He just does his work. You'd think, what's wrong with that? That's great. But my friend, that's where you're wrong. He's becoming a lion through hard work, but he doesn't have side vision. He doesn't even realize when people are talking behind his back, or when someone is stealing his credit. And what happens? The promotion goes to the person who works a little less, but is expert in networking and image management, in strategy. And the disciplined guy stays a loyal worker forever. He never becomes a leader. So what should he have done? He should have developed political awareness. Just doing office work won't get you through. You need to observe who is making decisions and what they prefer. Use your discipline as a cover, behind which you build your alliances. Participate in office politics, even if the world keeps saying stay away from it. Because the truth is, the person sitting above you got there through exactly those efforts somewhere. Machiavelli says, a man who always tries to be good will surely be destroyed among those who are not. Therefore, a powerful person must be a great pretender and dissembler, appearing disciplined on the outside, but ready for every form of cunning on the inside. Now understand through one more real-world scenario. Imagine you're sitting in a big business deal. You're a disciplined negotiator. You've read all the files. You're polite. You're working exactly by the SAOP. You've decided you won't move 1 inch outside your fixed terms. You think you're disciplined, but in reality, you're predictable. The other party is very clever. They notice you're answering every question in a pattern. They figure out when you'll pause and when you'll say yes. Result, they corner you using your own discipline and turn the deal in their favor. What you needed was strategic rationality. Deliberately being a little strange or unpredictable. When the negotiation gets stuck, don't just follow rules. Sometimes show sudden anger, even if it's fake on the inside. Or suddenly close the file and pretend you're walking away from the deal. When you suddenly break the pattern, the other party panics. They think they've lost the deal. In that confusion, they back off a little and give you the terms they weren't giving before. Discipline doesn't just mean following rules. The real fox strategy is knowing when to break rules to confuse the enemy. Make your discipline a puzzle for your opponent, so they can never figure out what your next move will be. Deals are won not with the mind, but with psychology. Blind discipline can make you a robotic worker, but to become a master negotiator, you need to be mentally unpredictable. You need to be disciplined, but masked disciplined. Look like a lion on the outside, but be a fox on the inside. Never reveal 100% of your real self to anyone. The less people know about you, the more you control them. If breaking rules is needed to win, don't call it immorality. Call it necessity. As Machiavelli says, the end justifies the means. If the purpose is great, the path doesn't matter. Conclusion. So, friend, remember this always. Discipline can make you strong. But blind discipline makes you predictable, controlled, and weak. The question is no longer whether discipline is right or wrong. The real question is, are you controlling your routine? Or is your routine controlling you? You've now seen how predictability makes you easy prey, how a rigid routine shuts down your thinking, how a system turns you into a tool, how flattery kills truth, how consistency can make you irrelevant, how being too righteous makes you weak, and how if you're only a lion, you'll get trapped. And if you're only a fox, you won't be able to fight. Power comes only when you are both. The world doesn't belong to those who only follow rules. The world belongs to those who understand when to follow rules and when to break them. Discipline should not be your slave master. It should be your weapon. You are not a servant of routine. You are its owner. And when you truly understand that, you won't just survive. You'll start controlling the game.